Neofolk is a form of folk music-inspired experimental music that emerged from post-industrial music circles. Neofolk can either be solely acoustic folk music or a blend of acoustic folk instrumentation aided by varieties of accompanying sounds such as pianos, strings and elements of industrial music and experimental music. The genre encompasses a wide assortment of themes. Neo-folk musicians often have ties to other genres such as neoclassical and martial industrial. History. The term neofolk originates from esoteric music circles who started using the term in the late 20th century to describe music influenced by musicians such as Douglas Pierce, Tony Wakeford and David Tibet. Anglo-American folk music with similar sounds and themes to neo-folk existed as far back as the 1960s. Folk musicians such as Vulcan's Hammer, Changes, Leonard Cohen, and Comus could be considered harbingers of the sound that later influenced the neo-folk artists. Also, the later explorations of Velvet Underground's band members, specifically those of Lou Reed, have been called a major influence to what later became neo-folk culture. A majority of artists within the neo-folk genre focus on archaic cultural and literary references. Local traditions and indigenous beliefs tend to be portrayed heavily, as well as esoteric and historical topics. Heathenry and occultism. Various forms of neo-paganism and occultism play a part in the themes touched upon by many modern and original neo-folk artists. Runic alphabets, heathen European sites and other means of expressing an interest in the ancient and ancestral occurs often in neo-folk music. Aesthetically, references to this subject occur within band names, album artwork, clothing and various other means of artistic expression. This has led to some forefathers of the genre and current artists within the genre attributing it to being an aspect of a broader neo-pagan revival. Related terms and styles. Apocalyptic folk. As a descriptor, apocalyptic folk predates neo-folk and was used by David Tibet to describe the music of his band Current 93 during a period in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Initially, Tibet did not intend to imply connection with the folk music genre, rather, that Current 93 was made by apocalyptic folk. In other words, apocalyptic people. Folk noir. Other vague terms sometimes used to describe artists of this genre include dark folk and pagan folk. These terms are umbrella terms that also describe various other forms of unrelated music. Martial industrial. A military pop is a genre that shares a lot in common with neo-folk and developed very close to it. Notable artists. Events. Menuo Duo d'Arigus, Stella Natura,